Protests have been happening at colleges and universities across Texas, and there have been arrests at other campuses, but the chaotic clashes we saw here at the University of Texas stand out. Our Capitol correspondent Monica Madden digs into the police response at UT compared to other universities.
Tuesday's calm on UT Austin's campus, marking a stark difference from Monday's unrest.
From the start, I did not think we would be met with this much police presence, especially because all we were doing as students was expressing our First Amendment rights.
Demonstrators like Raneem, a junior on campus, blamed the police, not the protesters, for the clashes.
All the violence and chaos that we saw on Wednesday and yesterday was incited by this institution and by the police.
It's a different story for some of the Jewish students.
I'm very grateful that UT brought in the police and had our backs and made sure that we were all safe.
Saying police prevented escalation and encampments, which are in violation of UT rules.
A lot of the stuff that's happening at other schools just goes untouched.
Protests like these have popped up on other state campuses around Texas, but didn't incite the same response. We asked law enforcement experts why.
The law enforcement officers or agencies want to be involved in it right away, but they do need to plan and be prepared.
Dr. Roy Taylor, the chief of Capitol Police in Raleigh, says it's a delicate balance of being prepared but not escalating.
We start out with officers in regularly attired uniforms so that we're not escalating the situation. We're not coming in full riot gear and armored vehicles.
Experts say it can be a combination of factors, but a university memo we obtained showed they wanted significant police presence in order to prevent the chaos that we're seeing on other campuses across the nation. Local advocates say officers did what was necessary.
The deployment of this type of force is used when there is intelligence that is gathered, again, mostly open source, that there are threats to the university.
Questions police will continue to wrestle with as more protests are expected.
Monica joins us now. You pointed out that there have been protests on other Texas campuses, but not the same immediate police response that we saw combined with state, local, and campus officers. Why is that?
Well, law enforcement experts I talked to say there are multiple factors that go into pre-planning for police response to these types of protests. It was interesting, Texas State, for example, had a similar amount of students, maybe 100, 200 on the very first day, but we didn't see DPS coming in. We didn't see that same type of police response. And a lot of that has to do with, again, that open source intelligence. Perhaps university leaders had more reason to be concerned. A university memo that we obtained showed that the university was concerned about this and asked for a significant police presence on day one with DPS. So I think part of that is due to the fact that they were looking at, what was going on campuses in other parts of the nation, like Columbia, for example, and perhaps did not want things to spiral out of control, and having that police force from the start might have prevented it from getting worse. At least that's what we can assume from having that police presence early on.
I know you talked to a lot of people in the midst of the protests. What were you hearing about the immediate show of force from law enforcement and how that impacted what happened?
It really depends on who you ask. Josh, when we were on the ground Wednesday of last week, the first day of the protests, we saw a ton of spectators come after we saw, DPS and all of the law enforcement coming in riot gear. It attracted a lot more students who were just watching this all play out. So for the protesters, they felt as though the immediate show of force was almost antagonistic, and one student I spoke to said it was a self-fulfilling prophecy because it sort of made tensions worse, and then it became more about students versus police rather than the Israel-Palestine conflict itself. So if you talk to protesters, they think that the law enforcement showing up before things even got violent, or if they ever were to on their end, made that happen. That's what they say. But if you talk to some of the pro-Israel Jewish students, which I talked to several of them, they felt safe for having the law enforcement on campus. They felt, though, if the law enforcement didn't come, they thought it would get out of hand anyway. So a lot of them were thankful for DPS and thankful to the university and the governor for how they handled that situation, saying they felt that the police presence made it so it did not escalate further into, again, what you see at other universities across the country right now.
All right, Monica, thank you very much.